Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the 5th episode of Talking Esports. My name is ContactZero, and I am the host of the show. My delightful guest this evening is the pun master himself, Sona the Doctor. If for some reason you aren't following us on Twitter, you wouldn't have seen the breakdown of what we're discussing on this show. I mean, I'd have no idea why you aren't, considering mine, Sona's Aunties' social media is right below us, right here. So, you know, maybe give us a follow. Do you think I got away with that subtle plug there, Sona?
Yeah, it's incredibly subtle. It's about as subtle as Excoundrel trying to make a pun in the middle of a cast. That's awful.
Right. So this week, what we'll discuss is Sona's insight into casting, last week's ESL UK Premiership games, and also discuss tomorrow's games, the NUEL Semi-finals and the King of the North finals, which are happening tomorrow. If we have time, we'll discuss a couple of other things at the end of the show, and maybe answer some questions from Twitch chat as well. With you, Sona, what I'd like to do, or basically what I do with these conversations, is kind of build like a narrative that allows the audience to understand the guest's journey through their career. And for that, I'd like to ask a fairly simple question to start. What made you get into casting, and how exactly did you start?
I think, for me, asking me what made me get into casting is very difficult to define. I kind of slipped into it. I was part of a group called Summoner School when I was just beginning playing League of Legends. So like when I was about silver, I got to level 30. I've been playing for probably about a year on and off, and I had been playing a lot of games in this Summoner School thing where they match you up with higher level people and you play against them and you try and learn and try and improve. And it turned out one week that one of the casters hadn't shown up, and I was just like, well, yeah, I'll give it a try. I actually started off as a color caster as well. So it's the analytical, more like talk about why players are doing what they're doing. And for a silver player, I really didn't know much.
Yeah.
I kind of just progressed on from there. Like I think I like the sound of my own voice, which definitely helps. And I like to think about the fact that people are listening to me. That sounds really arrogant, and it probably is, in all honesty. I just enjoy knowing that someone's enjoying what I'm saying and knowing that someone's listening to what I'm saying. And I think a theme you're going to find throughout today is I'm sort of at the tail end of my casting career, probably. Like, I love casting, and I want to do it as much as I can in my spare time and all my time. Like, if I have time to do casting, I want to do it. But I'm not at a stage anymore where I can actively pursue it because I've got other professional commitments. You know, I'm a doctor. I have to do all this other stuff and have to put some of my spare time into doing that as well. So I'm just going to be really honest about what I think throughout this entire thing, and I apologize if I piss people off or if people don't think that that's acceptable or that's not what I should be saying. But I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to say it from the heart, and I hope that people take it with the pinch of salt it should be taken with. I'm trying to get my face in the middle of the camera as well. I'm not sure how I should position myself. Let me turn on my stream again. KotN, I know my face is beautiful. I need to be further towards this side. There we go.
Boom, there we go.
Great. Okay, so yeah, that's how I got into casting. Summoner School, I cast a few games, then I did it weekly instead of playing, and then we got Excoundrel and I answered a Reddit thread. So Excoundrel's Kin and Low is another he's probably, if he was consistently casting, he would be easily one of the best color casters in the world, if he wanted to be. But as an aside, he and I both applied on Reddit to a thread by European Gaming League, EGL, who I'm not sure do League of Legends anymore.
I don't think so, no.
And yeah, joined up and did a cast for them on one of their streams, and I cast with them for a while, consistently every week, and then moved on to doing stuff for ESL. I did a little bit for the NUEL right at the start of my career in inverted commas. Yeah, that's how I got into casting. And I went on a bit of a tangent there, but that's probably going to happen a few times.
Yeah, it's fine. I think technically speaking, I'm actually still an EGL LOL admin. I've not been told that I'm not anymore.
Excellent.
So, I mean, you know, every week we don't do tournaments. It's pretty good.
EGL represent, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're not exactly active anymore, as you said, and that's because you're more.
Hey, mate, you're saying I don't work out? I work out every day. You check out these guns.
I know.
Oh yeah.
You were pretty hench, to be fair. It's what I'm trying to like aspire to be. It's why I go to the gym now. It's just I think I've got a picture of Sona on my wall, and I'm just like, ugh, one day I'll be just like him.
Got one on my wall behind me as well, actually.
So
It's
yeah,
my face.
And it's because you're obviously a doctor now, as you mentioned as well. However, recently you were casting the promotion tournament for the ESL Premiership.
Yeah.
Like, how was it getting back into that?
Getting back into casting or the promotion tournament itself?
Just the environment, like the casting, and yeah, the casting that tournament in specifics. Like,
I think one of the joys that I have is that, as I said earlier, like Excoundrel and I have been casting partners throughout my entire career. He does a lot of stuff with other people now, like a lot of stuff with Munch, because of course Munch is the premier play-by-play caster in the UK now.
yeah.
But we have a synergy that comes from the fact that we developed our craft, in inverted commas, together. We developed the way that we cast together. I know when he's going to finish a sentence, and he knows when I'm going to like go into my squeaky voice and just want to talk for a couple of seconds. And it's very easy for me to just pick up a cast with him and work with it. There are other casters that I struggle with a little bit more. Vedius, I think he and I work really well together as well. But it's not difficult to pick up a cast and do all right when you want to do all right. The difficulty comes if I were casting consistently, or if anyone was casting consistently, then there's minor tweaks that you'd make that would really make you a lot better. And it was something I was seeing sort of at the peak of my career, probably last year, this sort of time. No, just after this time last year, when I was going to Belgium to do eSports Festival, when we did the ESL Premiership, when we were doing a bunch of stuff. And because I was casting consistently, I had just really nice intonations, and I had my puns on fleek, and everything was just on point. And it's not difficult to cast okay, but what differentiates you from someone will tune in and say, yeah, this cast is all right, I don't mind listening to them, and someone will tune in and say, actually, these casters have made the game a better experience for me, is that practice and is that time and dedication that you put into it. So I loved casting the ESL promotions. I really enjoyed them. The whole atmosphere as a caster is really good fun. ESL are great at making you feel welcome and making you feel part of the family and part of the furniture, and I always feel that I'd much prefer that than being mollycoddled as a caster or separated. It's something that I'm going to, again, go off on a bit of a tangent here because I feel like I might as well. I don't know much, but I know some stuff about casting in the UK. There's a big difference between companies like ESL, and I think it's partly ESL UK I've worked with basically since they were getting set up with their league business, and companies like Multiplay and Insomnia. I feel that the people who are involved with esports at Multiplay are very, very interested in it and very intent on making you have a good time. But the company as a whole doesn't really care about its esports size because that's not where it makes its money. And you can't blame them for that. Like, they make the money off Minecraft, they make the money off YouTubers, they make the money off filling the NEC and having exhibitionists, and everyone pays to go there, and it's the 12-year-old kids. It's not the 18-year-old guys or the 16 to 18-year-old guys who go there to play the League of Legends tournaments. But the difference between that and ESL is in Insomnia, I remember the last one I did was I-45, I think. And we were put in a small room with 2 computers. We got our bottle of water, and it was great. And it was great to be there because I enjoyed spending the time with the person. But ESL, and the reason that casting ESL Premiership was so good, was that they make you feel like part of the family. And they make you feel at home, and they've got pizzas there for you, and if you want, you can open up the fridge. And like, I had a Budweiser before I started one of the casts, and it's just like, they don't mind as long as you know that you're going to do a good job and you're professional about it. And it's the attitude that ESL have that make them such a good company to work for and work with, I think. So yes, I really enjoyed casting the ESL Premiership. Sorry, I said this is going to happen a few times. Just throw my pen against the wall as well. So that was good.
Yeah,
excellent.
Good stuff.
ESL Premierships were great fun to cast, and I liked coming back into casting.
And you also like chicken.
Chicken's great. Fucking love chicken.
Yeah. Following on from this then, you mentioned it, and I'm sure it's on everyone's mind. How can you be so good at making puns, or maybe it's so bad? Why did you decide to integrate this into your cast?
So what you'll notice if you look for it is that every caster has their thing or something that they gravitate towards in their style of casting. So Excoundrel really likes to talk for a long period of time. And he'll go very in depth about a point and explain it out and explain the permutations of it and the possibilities of it. And you'll like I had a pick and ban phase where I said the bans and then he said everything from then on until the game started, which is probably a 10-minute period. And he's great at doing that. Color casters Vedius, really good at picking out itemization and the way that items change the game. Munch, really good at getting excited but still being able to like keep his intonation in fights. He's working on it really well at the moment, actually. For me, the way that I distinguish myself was in my everyday life, I feel a little bit like the funny man. So I'm not inherently funny, but every now and again I'll say something that at least makes me giggle, okay? And I found more and more I was trying to incorporate that in the start of my casting, and because a lot of the stuff I was casting to the UK, it was easy to use playing on words and puns to get that jokes across, especially since you know that if you're casting to an English audience who speak English as their first language, a pun universally translates there. Me making a joke about something that I find funny isn't always going to appeal to everyone's sense of humour, but a pun can be cringed at by everyone. And if it's an especially good one, like I remember, I think it was Kobe in was it Kobe? Or it was either Kobe or Riv in an NALCS match. A Kha'Zix tried to jump over a wall and fucked it up, basically. And he said, "Scyther, you can't learn fly." And that joke is inherent to basically everyone who watches the show. And so for the UK scene, I knew that I could use puns as my sort of, everyone understands these, which is why it was funny. And I worked on them a little bit. It was never that I tried deliberately to only use puns, because that gets really boring. I think we can all use Freak as an example for that. But I tried to make sure that I had a few lined up every now and again. Because in the heat of a moment, nothing beats a good pun. It's true.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, you just mentioned a few of the right casters there, but when you were starting your casting career, so to speak, were there any inspirations that you looked up to? Like, for example, Deman and Joe Miller, who are both from the UK. Did you look up to them at all?
I think you had to. That's like, when I was starting, League was really still in its infancy as an esport. You had most of your IEMs were where you went for most of your gaming. MLG a little bit at that time. D-Man is always someone I've aspired to be. Like, I remember a lot of the time I accidentally used "I do not believe it" in exactly the same intonation, exactly the same structure as he does. Joe Miller as well. Joe Miller, from what I've heard and from what I've seen, seems to be the sort of guy who can cast in any situation without having to worry about previous synergy with a caster or what the game is. Like, he's very good at just casting a game, and it's really impressive. Other people I looked up to at the time, Jat is actually a caster I've always really enjoyed. Always really enjoyed listening to. I think he gets undervalued as a caster. His analysis is really strong. He's very good at bringing salient points. I got a chance to talk to him a couple of years ago, and it was really influential discussion for me as a caster at the time. And people like Zyrene nowadays, if I'm coming back to the sort of current time period, Zyrene, I really enjoy his casting. I think Riv does a lot of good work as well. The EULCS play-by-play casters, Pulse and Stress actually, they've always been someone I've been trying to get up to that level. Like, they've always been sort of one step ahead of where I'd like to be as a caster. So when I was doing small UK tournaments, they were doing Insomnias. When I was doing Insomnias, they were doing Challenger Series. When I was, I'm not doing Challenger Series, but if I was doing Challenger Series, they'd be doing LCS, which they're doing at the moment. And I feel that they've always been, I think you have to have someone who's just a little step ahead of you in any frame of life, any profession, to motivate you to get to that next step. It's the same with any job you do. You always want to be a little bit better than your immediate manager, and then you want to aspire to be your manager or be someone who does your manager's jobs. I know lots of people don't like their managers. Yeah, so there, a lot of people inspired me. I think if I were to pick the people I find most inspirational in casting at the moment, I'd say probably Vedius and Munch. Munch because he's gone from someone who cast a lot but didn't perhaps have the experience of casting that he could have had at the time. So he was challenging some people who had more experience in the scene than he had when he applied for the ESL UK job, and he put in a lot of effort and got it, and is still putting in a lot of effort to cast Rainbow Six. He cast Guild Wars. He casts a lot of games that I wouldn't be able to cast, and perhaps if I had the time that he does, because he's doing it professionally, maybe I'd be able to get up to a similar level. But I'm very impressed by his dedication towards it. Vedius is he is a little bit unfortunate, because if Excoundrel hadn't been around for as long, or hadn't established himself in the same way, in the way he has in the UK scene, Vedius would be the cutting edge of the UK casting. He is on point. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He always gives clear and concise points. You can see it from his YouTube videos. He thinks out everything he wants to do. He knows the game really well. Perhaps his delivery isn't as strong as Excoundrel's, which is where Excoundrel, having set himself up in the scene, helps him, but he knows what he wants to say before he says it, and he makes sure he thinks out what he wants to say before he says it, which is what I, as a play-by-play, value, because I don't... The worst thing as a well, not the worst thing. One of the worst things as play-by-play caster is having a color caster who has a point, and you know what point they want to make, but they don't articulate it properly, because then you as a play-by-play are trying to struggle them through this point, and it's like, well, we both know what you mean, but you haven't expressed it in a way that anyone in the audience or anyone on Twitch is going to understand. Yeah, so going back to the original question once more. Initial inspirations, Deman and Joe Miller, Riv, Jat, I'd say. Now I'm inspired... Well, I chased Stress and Pulse through their careers. I would have loved to have got up to that level. And it's still a possibility, but it's a faint one now. And current inspirations, I'd definitely say that Munch and Vedius are my current sort of... I looked at them and I think, yeah, you've done really well. Proud of them. Proud of them.
Yeah, I think definitely Stress and Pulse have improved a lot over the years, because maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago, they casted a tournament that I was a part of, which was the, I think it was EGLs, but it was called like SGL, because it was the Student Gaming League, and it was at Play Expo. And
yes, they did. That was it was the EGL, because they were as part to get into the Four Nations, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's
yeah,
right,
they cast that. That was an awful tournament. I'll burn bridges all I want. EGL was one of the worst run organisations I have ever worked for, and on the league side. And it was a management issue. They did really badly. They made promises they couldn't keep, and it was absolutely awful. The admins were great. The casters were great. The players wanted to play, but the actual management side of EGL was utter bullshit. And I would never work for them, even if they changed the management totally. I would never work for them again. I advise people away from working for their league side.
Yeah, I think, well, like we said, I don't think they are using, or rather doing League of Legends
if they
anymore.
Ever do,
but I do remember, I mean, it wasn't really so much to say it was EGL's fault, like this specific tournament, because it was Play Expo. They didn't think about the fact that having like 200 PCs on at any one point might cause a bottleneck in the internet. So the entire internet was down for the entirety of Saturday. So they had to cancel the main tournament. That was good for me though, because for the whole of Sunday I got to play on the stage, whereas would have only played like one game and maybe the finals if I had actually got to the finals. But fortunately, I only got to the semis. But
well, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
you're a bit
what a
shit.
shame. Hey, I was a Vi one trick back then. It's pretty good. But then they banned Vi in the semi-finals and I lost.
Yeah, you're fucked, aren't you?
Pretty much. Right. So you mentioned it briefly then about not being able to translate information from as a caster. Someone who's watching right now might not exactly know what you're doing when you're watching or casting a game. Like, how do you actually deduce information in the game and analyze the outcomes so that you can convey your point across so that audiences will understand?
So I think there's a very big difference there when you compare play-by-play and color casters. I'm not sure if you've got like one of the other color casters to come on at some later point, but I'll try and give my impression of what they try and do. As a play-by-play caster, a lot of your casting is setting up your color. So what I used to do was I'd ask my color questions, and that it sounds a bit obvious, but when you say, "Oh, why do you think they built Locket of the Iron Solari? Why do you think the Gragas is, good in the jungle? Why do you think they've gone for this team comp?" It sets the color up well, but the problem with that method is if your color isn't ready for the question or has a different point they want to make, you kind of leave them wrong-footed slightly. What I do now is, this is when there isn't a team fight happening. You make a statement that is less knowledge than you have, but more leads the color into a point. So you could say something like, "Oh, nice pickup, Locket of the Iron Solari, going to give some magic resist to this team," and then the color will take it away and say why that's good. Talking from sort of an outside perspective, what a play-by-play really does is commentate on the fights and commentate on what's happening. And there's a big difference. When I started play-by-playing, I used to try and say everything. And that was kind of what I was known for when I began. I'm quite good at talking rapidly and still being slightly coherent. So that's what I used to do. What I'm trying more and more to do is still have that rapidity and that excitement in my voice, but not say everything that's happening. So a lot of the time now it will just be like, "Ooh, big shockwave," and now da-da-da-da-da. Whereas before it would have been like, "Oh, shockwave into the arcane shift, and here comes the mystic shot," and it just go, you can confuse viewers, because if you listen to any football any radio show of football or cricket or rugby or golf or whatever sport you like, what you'll notice is they tend not to say really what's happening a lot of the time. They'll say, "Mahrez passes to Vardy, back to Mahrez," and it's like, until there's a big bit of action, you don't need to bring an excitement level. You don't need to really talk about everything that's happening. And when there is a big team fight, it's nice to have that next gear to go up into and be able to actually just click into it. It's a bit like when something exciting happens, but then, I don't know, I can't even explain it. It's like, say you watch an explosion, and there's a small explosion at the front, and you're all like, "Oh my god, the car exploded," and then the building explodes behind it. You have that next level that your voice goes to, and it's about accessing that next level and analysing what's happening in the team fight, what's the important part of the team fight. So usually, taking it back to like the most simple level, so this is not even talking to casters, this is talking to just anyone who watches League of Legends. What a play-by-play caster does is they look for ultimates, and they look for people using summoner spells. That's all I really do in a team fight. Before 6 doesn't really matter, because it's skirmishing, okay? Has someone used Shockwave? Has someone used Crescendo? Has someone used Explosive Cask? Has that put someone out of position or meant that someone's going to die? Yes, okay, 1 kill. Excellent, next kill, etc., etc. And then you watch to see progression through the team fight. So double kills, quadra kills, those you're going to put more emphasis on. You're going to put more emphasis on when it's a team fighting from behind. And it's just about showing the excitement that I have in the fact that this game is happening and what's happening in the game to the audience. The difficulty comes when you try and manufacture excitement, and it's something a lot of early play-by-play casters fall prey to. So it's a small skirmishing fight, there's no action, first blood goes down, but it's like 5-on-1, and there's no way the other person's going to survive. And you'll hear casters be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they got first blood." And it's like, well, of course you can. They brought 5 people into the top lane, yes, they got first blood. Shut up about it, they got first blood, it's fine. A lot of casters, when it's a slow game, they'll try and manufacture excitement. And I feel it's something I used to do. If you manufacture excitement at that point, the excitement you have later on really doesn't convey itself, because the audience is expecting more from you. And they'll start to doubt your credentials. They'll start to doubt how good a caster you are, because they're like, "Well, I know this game, that's not exciting." Yeah, so as a play-by-play caster, I look for ultimates, I look for summoner spells, and I look for big team fights. Or I feel that I have a relatively good knowledge of the game, having played for as long as I have, that I can anticipate fights as well. So it's about learning with your color when to hand off from that. So yeah, as play-by-play, you set up, you look, you cast fights, and that's about all you do. Was that your question? I think that was your question.
Pretty much, yeah.
Was there anything I missed?
No, I don't think
this
so.
is something I can actually talk about.
Go on, go for it.
Well, no,
All right, you mean, is there anything? Yeah, I mean, you in the past you did both, obviously, as you mentioned. I remember sometimes when you did the Law UK Customs, you switched between the two quite frequently, especially when you were drunk, and you did solo casts as well.
Yes.
Like, can you can you actually give us some insight into what a color caster looks for when they're analyzing the game? Like, are they looking at the map all the time, the items, the lane matchups, the team comps in all together? Like, what do you think they're looking for, and how much can you actually give us insight into this?
I think I'm gonna pre-note my answer by saying that I don't regularly color cast. I do, I enjoy doing it. It's good fun, but I'm much more an action person, so that's why I gravitated towards play-by-play. And there are good color casters in the UK who can give you better answers. But from my perspective, as a color caster, I sort of broke the game down into periods of play. So if we were talking about the current meta, picks and bans is the first one. Has the team got an obvious composition they're going to run with? How is the other team counteracting that? Bans usually are banned out the power picks at the moment, so Fiora, Malphite, Tahm Kench is still pretty good. You want to ban out Cog more unless you know how to play against him, but I think high-level teams know how to play against Cog pretty well these days. And then you talk about how the compositions work against each other, so what we tend to see is sort of a 1-3-1 split or a 1-4 split against a poking comp. If the poking comp has left Brawn open, you expect to see Brawn picked by the other side. So you're analysing picks and bans, you're working through why the team comps counteract each other. You think about when the team comps are most powerful in the game, whether they've got a nice balance of power, whether they've got enough wave clear, whether or not they can siege towers effectively. Those are my big sort of, if I was color casting, that's what I'd think through when I'm going through picks and bans. First phase of the game, at a high level, tends to be lane swaps. So you're really focusing on, does the jungler does the top laner leech XP off the jungle? How much XP? Have they taken any of the jungle camps? How many people do you put bot? Do you do 3 and then leave your jungler to roam around the jungle? Or do you put all 4 of them bot so you can get the tower? Do they bounce the wave effectively? Bouncing the wave is really the huge thing that you need to be wary of if you're going to do those 2v1 lane swaps. And whether or not teams are anticipating it properly. Early vision, again, very slow at the moment because you don't have as many wards as you used to and you can't buy sight wards as you used to. If it's not that sort of phase, you're looking at what teams have better laning phase. If you've got an aggressive lane like a Lucian Braum, or if you're against like a Tristana Gianna or something who wants to play a bit safer, Caitlyn with the range, who's going to win the harass battles, which jungler can gank first. We see a lot of action bot lane these days because of the way that vision works. If you can gank bot lane, you're turning a 2v2 into a 3v2 or a 4v2 with a teleport, and that means you're more likely to pick up 2 kills rather than 1. If you have an immobile mid laner, so things like Jhin, Anivia is pretty immobile, Victor as well, if you can get on top of them, you see repetitive ganks. And you want to see not just whether or not a kill's happened, but summoner spells that have been burnt, vision that's been removed, things like that. So it's all about not just looking at the obvious things that have happened, but trying to read into the minutiae. And then you get into mid and late game, and you talk about which team scales better into late game, and itemization, and whether or not teams need to be picking up certain goals. ZZ, Ross, and Banner of Command are really big things at the moment as well. So you want to talk about where you place your ZZ Rot Portal and where you place your Banner of Command and how that allows you for the split push. I mean, split push is a huge meta at the moment. It's a bit boring, in all honesty. I don't like it as a meta, and disengage is huge as well, which is really boring because it means less fights. But that's how you'd go about analysing a game. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of things, you can go into replays of team fights and talk about why certain spells are used the way they were, or why the team didn't have vision around areas, things like that. I think if you wanted to analyse a team, that's what you should be doing. But if you want to colour cast, you need to make sure your points are poignant and they're relevant and they're concise. Those are the three. Well, poignant and relevant basically mean the same thing. If they're relevant and concise, basically, because otherwise you end up rambling. And it's, as much as I love to know that the percentage HP off Blade of the Ruined King is less than the percentage HP you get from Tahm Kench Devour, I really don't give a shit as a watcher. I want to know why that was important and why that happened and why the things played out the way they did. So it's great to have all of that background knowledge because it means that you can analyze it better, but you don't need to show off to the audience.
Yeah, okay. So 2 questions from that then.
Okay.
I'll just ask one at a time rather than just bombard you with questions. So the first one is, now that the meta is a little bit stale and boring because there's less team fights, how do you cope as a play-by-play caster then? Because obviously your main job is to commentate over the fights and the skirmishes. If they're not happening, how do you fill the air by, obviously otherwise it's just going to be the colour caster talking for the entire time?
Memes.
Just memes.
Lots of memes, mate. No, I think like this is where I like the fact that I started off as a colour caster because I still think about things like that, and it can be really enjoyable to actually colour cast. I know that sounds wrong coming from me because I'm a play-by-play caster, born and true. In my heart of hearts, I'm play-by-play, but it can be quite fun to actually get down to the nitty-gritty of things and think about how team comps are going to work and think about how things are going to play out throughout the game. And it also sets you up later on for team fights because you can you talked about building a narrative at the start of the podcast. You can build a narrative for the players and for the teams, and you can stress why it's so important. Like for the Riot application this year, it was you had to cast the Fnatic Oyahen game at the end of last year's playoffs, so it was 2-2 and you're casting the final game, and it's all about, especially in that sort of moment, building the narrative for it. Like if you were to cast G2 at the moment, you could say, well, G2, mechanically great team, but perhaps not so good in the actual strategic play. Let's look at how H2K play against them and how they play the strategic map pressuring game here. And then you can go into those next levels of analysis that help your play-by-play because you refer back to them as part of your narrative. So it can feel boring, and if you're not invested in the game itself, it can be quite hard to cast, but you have to just allow yourself to become a little bit of a colour caster. And that sounds sacrilegious, but it's true. And memes. You use that time to think of good jokes.
Okay. And the second question from that is, do you think that colour casters can do the role or job of analyst as well? Because aren't they basically doing a similar job?
Do you mean analyst as in an analyst on a desk or an analyst for a team?
On a team.
I think at the highest level, yes. I think that there's a step up between what you would call pro casting, so sort of the UK level, the international tournament level, but not Riot or IEM sort of ESL level. There's a step up between that and Riot or ESL because there's a huge amount of statistical data behind this game, and what an analyst does is they break down that statistical data, they break down what the enemy's statistical data is, and they look at where they can pick out the bits. So there is a level of knowledge that comes as a colour caster that you can definitely cross-apply that you probably can't as a play-by-play, but there's another step to becoming an analyst for a specific team. Colour casters know the game very well, they know how to play certain ways very well, but they don't know that next level of detail at our sort of level, and probably not at Riot or ESL level for each team. They probably know stats here and there, but they probably don't know the GPM of hybrid on G2 unless they need it for the cast that week or unless it's planned for the cast that week. So colour casters are a lot closer to becoming analysts than play-by-plays, but there's still another level of detail that you need to know.
When you initially began casting, what techniques did you employ to improve and develop your skills?
The first one's obvious. You have to practice. The more you cast, the better you'll get. If you cast and you do VOD reviews, that's really good as well because you look back and you think, I'm saying too much, I'm saying what too much, I'm saying this specific phrase, I'm using the same word too many times. Every time I said a word more than 3 times in the space of 3 minutes, I'd get a thesaurus up and look it up, and then I'd have a notepad in front of me with the words that I was using, and even if it meant I stopped the cast a little bit, as soon as I was about to say that word, I'd look down. So I say, what do I say? Magnanimous, I say quite a lot when I'm doing my introductions. I say what are the other ones? I've got one that I say all the fucking time. I haven't cast in so long, as you can tell. Anyway, I had a bunch of words that I put onto a bit of paper, and I put thesaurus things down. Practice your introductions. Practice your extraductions. I think there's. I just saw Trid put in chat that he says casting over professional VODs and then doing review is good. I like that, but it's important not to let your... I did a few of those. I have done that in the past, and it did work for me, but it's important to make sure that you're not deliberately becoming more like the professional cast. Outro, that's the one. More like the professional casters. You need to find your own rhythm, find your own style, and unless you're doing something totally wrong, the mechanics of casting are the same for everyone. So there's finding your own style, and then there's having a bad style. Okay, so what would be a bad style is swearing all the time, obviously, being really rude to your co-caster, not giving your co-caster any time to speak, not being coherent. Those are bad things. But there's being funny with your co-caster and having a bit of banter, you know, cheeky Nandos with the lads, etc. I'm so out of touch with the modern generation, it's awful. And then there's talking quickly and coherently and making it exciting, and being a good caster by being mechanically sound along with having your own personality on top of it. So don't cast professionally like the professionals do. Cast professionally like you do, because there's a big difference between the two. You're not going to be the next Jat. You want to be the first you. Inspiration.
Very, very wise.
Thank you. Yeah, also tongue twisters and things like that help as well. Making sure I've got a difficulty pronouncing R's, so I try and avoid words that start with R or have R's in the middle of them, because I know that I can't pronounce R's. I say "wah" instead, and it sounds like I'm a little bit of a baby. So,
like Jonathan Was.
Oh yeah, not as bad as Jonathan Was, but yeah, basically.
So you gave us a little bit of wisdom there. Do you have any extra snippets that you'd like to give for like advice to casters or people who are looking to get into the casting profession?
It's very competitive these days. I feel that if you want to do it, you can. It's not the easiest thing to get into. There's limited opportunities for professional work, for paid work. Do it because you love it. Don't do it because it's something that you want to pay you. I get paid hardly anything for, well, compared to what I get as a professional outside of casting in a job. And doctors don't get paid that much. I get paid less than people who've been working for 3 years. And anyway, I don't get paid that much professionally, but I get paid less casting. So don't do it because you want to get paid for it. Do it because you love it. And you have to be willing to put in some fucking shit hours. Like when I started, I was doing... So I'd cast EGL or whatever until 10 o'clock at night. I'd then stay up until 2 and do a high school Star League in the States until 6 in the morning on a weekend. I'd get 5 hours sleep. I'd do some studying for my medical degree, and I'd do the same in the evening. And it's tough. Like everything that is worth having in this world is fucking tough to get to. It's really difficult, and it drains you, and you'll be worn out, and there'll be many a time when you think, I don't want to do this anymore. And you'll get burnt out. But if it's something you want to do, you'll come back to it. I quit League for 6 months in the middle of part of my casting, and I still came back to it because it's something I love doing. Even now, like I was meant to officially stop casting after Four Nations, which is over a year ago now. But I still come back to it, and I still do it because I love it. And a lot of it in the UK is about the community and about the people that I enjoy spending time with. But a lot of it's also because you guys need to hear my voice, because it's fucking great, you know? I'm amazing. On a serious note, if you want to get your name out there, people will listen. There's a lot of nice casters, nice guys out in the esports scene. I'm always willing to do a VOD review with you. Excoundrel is the same, Vedius is the same, Munch is the same. Like, if that's the level you want to go to, we're always willing to listen if you're just beginning casting. There's people higher up, so I'm not going to name names because I don't want them to get bombarded with people with direct messages or PMs or whatever, but there's always someone higher than you who's willing to give you a chance and give you a listen. And as long as you're willing to accept what they give you, then that's fine. But if you're not willing to take the criticism and not willing to change the way you cast, then you can't really become a caster. Because I was very different when I started casting than I am now. I was a lot more uptight. I was a lot more professional. I played everything like it was meant to be, like it was LCS at the time, which was very prim and proper. There weren't jokes, there weren't memes, there weren't puns. And I reverted very quickly back, well, towards a more punny style, because that's what I was told works. It's more about communities. There's a great resource on Facebook called the UK Shoutcasters Facebook page, which you can all access if you want to get into casting. I think Trid does like a weekly, or someone does a weekly practice thing. There's the UK LoL customs games to cast. Like, if you want to become a good caster, you got to practice. I spent hours learning all the names of all the champions, abilities and their passives and all of that, and that really helped me as well, because that's how I cast. But it's fucking tough. Like, it's really difficult to do. Everything is in life, and if you like it, you'll chase it, and your dreams are there. Like, you can do anything you want to do. This just sounds like me. It's, like, I don't want to be one of those motivational posters, but as a serious point, casting or anything you want to do in life isn't going to be easy. There's no straight line path. There's no golden ritual you do to get to where you want to be. There's no secret handshake. There's no person who's going to come up to you with a silver platter and say, look, here's the fucking casting job. It's fucking difficult to do what you want to do. But if you want to do it, you chase it, okay? Fucking go for it.
For sure. Especially since...
Sorry. Yeah.
I think basically the most important thing is just not to ever give up, because there are scenarios where, or times, like you said, where you will feel a bit burnt out, but if you really believe that you can make it, just keep on going. Because with anything that you do, even programming for me, there's times where I just go, I can't be bothered doing this anymore, but of course I have to. I mean, it's my job. I guess I can't get out of it, but there are times where I go, maybe I should do something else. But I know in reality this is probably what I should be doing, so I stick with it.
Yeah, like, burnout is something that is very real and affects a huge amount of the populace. Anyone in any profession can be burnt out. Like, see it every day. There's nothing wrong with saying that you want to take a break. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I can't do this for a week. Like, that, it's really not. It's not a statement against you. It's not saying that you're weak. Take your time. People get, like, even the most intelligent, most hardworking people in the world get burnt out. And usually it's actually people who do more than they should do. Take the time out to look after your body and look after yourself. And on a side note, as a doctor, it wouldn't be a podcast without me saying exercise is great for you. Taking time away from electronic devices is great for you. Like, I deliberately don't take any electronics into bed with me, because like, sleep hygiene is so important. Make sure, that's definitely becoming a meme. I don't take any. Anyway, sleep hygiene is really important. If you get 6 to 8 hours a day, you die 10 years later on average than people who get less than that. So sleep hygiene is so important. Make sure you get your sleep. Make sure you put time aside to look after your body, to look after yourself, to look after what you eat as well. Like, bad diet is really, really bad for you. I know it sounds awful, but being overweight increases your risk of death tenfold for every year after 60, I think it is. So, yeah, look after your bodies, guys. I'm going to drink some more alcohol. So this is going to be great.
In what ways can you develop synergy with another caster? You've mentioned before you obviously have to practice with them, but like, can you go into a little bit more detail with that? And has there been any scenarios where you've had like a natural rapport with the other?
I think people you're friends with, it's pretty easy to cast with. So, like, Munch and I cast together a couple of times, and that was pretty simple because we already knew how the other person structured their sentences, how they worked things. If you want to build synergy, just spending a night together and having fun is quite important.
That's a quote and a half, isn't it?
Pardon?
That's a quote and a half, isn't it? Just spend a night together and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, that's what Munch and I do every week anyway. I think it's having rapport with someone is the best way to have synergy with them. There's bits and bobs here and there that you work on. So Excoundrel and I always worked on our handoffs. So if we were coming into a fight, he'd say, okay, this is how I'm going to lead you into the fight. Let me lead you, and then I'll stop and you can take it over. There's making sure you know who's going to do intros and outros, making sure you've got a few jokes lined up that you can play in. I'd always set him up before picks and bans, so I'd say, this is our narrative, this is what we'll talk about, this is what I'll lead you into. I think the natural synergy you'll have with a few people, and that's great. Cultivate that as much as you can. Cast as many games as you can with them, because there's nothing that beats that instant click, that connection that you can have. It's almost like falling in love. I know that sounds really bad, but you know, we've all had that feeling. Well, some of you might be too young. All had that feeling when you look at someone, you're like, yeah, we know we're going to be friends. Or when you have it like a 10-minute conversation, you know you're going to be friends with them. And that is the same with casting. You know that it's gonna play off pretty well. So to build the synergy, you need to work together. You need to practice together. You need to spend time together, or even like online chatting, playing League, doing things like that, because it just gets you more comfortable around the other person, and that's when you cast the best you can.
Okay. Has there been has there ever been any funny or awkward moments during a cast? As I mentioned before, I seem to remember like you being drunk casting the LoL UK customs, which are some of my favourite casts because they were just so funny, especially the solo casts.
Yeah, I did quite a few drunk casts for LoL UK. I don't remember them that well. I don't often get drunk. I want to just put this to one side. I'm an adult. I'm 24 years old. I'm almost 25 now. I know how much alcohol I can handle before I get drunk, etc. But when I get drunk, I'm not very good at controlling what I say. So the LoL UK ones I hear were pretty good fun. There was an incident at an Insomnia a couple of years ago that I don't want to fully explore, but we got quite drunk. So we finished for the day, okay? We finished. I wasn't drinking while I was meant to be casting. We finished for the day, and there'd been a couple of internet issues that day, so some of the games hadn't been played. They were going to be played in the morning. So we went off. Excoundrel and I had a few pints together, and then we got called back and told that I think it was Infused were playing their game against... I think it was FM, but I can't... No, it wasn't. Couldn't have been FM. Infused were playing their game against someone. And did we want to cast it? And we'd had like 3 pints, so we were tipsy but not drunk. And we were like, yeah, of course we will, of course we will. So we went off, sat down, started casting it. And then an admin came behind us. And not an admin, like he was more of a manager than an admin for one of the teams. And started just shouting things in our ear. And halfway through, he swore quite loudly on the Insomnia stream, but it wasn't like a normal swear word. It wasn't like fuck or something like that. It was one of the elite swear words, talking about a certain admin for the League of Legends stream. So the next day we had to go to the Twitch booth in Insomnia to get the VOD deleted so that people couldn't find out what had been said about this certain admin at Insomnia. That was quite a fun cast. There's another cast, not a cast. When we went to the eSports Festival in Belgium, Excoundrel and I, we did a video afterwards for a company called... I can't remember what it's called. A guy called Givas does all of these interviews and does some casting himself. I'll see if I can find the link in a minute. And we did this 15-minute interview, and we just finished casting. It was boiling hot. And the whole thing is just me flirting with Excoundrel and feeling them up. It's quite good fun. Yeah, it's not as funny when I say it, because it's a lot about how we interact as a pair, as a duo. But I found it fun. It's good.
I don't think I've ever seen that interview, so I might have to have a little...
Should I see if I can find it?
Yeah, link it to me afterwards.
I'll link it to you afterwards.
Let's talk about some of the people you've casted before or with. You've already mentioned them, about how you feel about them now, but when you first met Munchables, Excoundrel and Vedius, what were your first impressions of them?
So Excoundrel I met online, and I think because he's also a... So I just seen Courtney's tweet. Because he's also he was a medical student at the time. I think he was in the same year as me. He might have been a year beneath me. And I feel we hit it off pretty quickly. Like, we both like rugby. We're both tall. We're both medical students. We both, like, basically we're just exactly the same person. So we hit it off really quickly. And he's always been the sort of guy that I've wanted to cast with, enjoyed spending time with. I'm going to his wedding, so he and I have always had a good relationship. I've always enjoyed spending time with him. I think this is, as I said at the start of the show, I'm going to be totally honest about this entire thing. I've been envious of some of the opportunities he's taken, some of the connections he's made while he's been a shoutcaster, because he took it to the next level. When I was in 5th year studying for my finals and stuff, I didn't pursue casting as much as I could have done, and he was a year beneath me, so he pursued it quite hard. And it was just like the way he stepped up is absolutely incredible. I think he is one of the best casters I know, not just personally, just generally. But yeah, I have been envious and jealous of the positions he's gotten himself into with some of his casting opportunities. Vedius, when he started off, I feel that he was very nervous. There's a specific type of caster, color caster, it's the color caster who used to be a professional or used to be a high-level gamer. And they tend to be quite stilted in what they say. They tend to be quite knowledgeable, but not able to convey that knowledge, as we talked about earlier. And Vedius was quite like that. He's gone leaps and bounds. I think we felt challenged, in inverted commas, by him when he first came on the scene with AJ, who's also a very good caster. I haven't talked about that much. AJ Cast used to be known as the Sigilus. Very, very good play-by-play. I think he focuses more on Vainglory and on some other casting, but he's a very strong play-by-play caster. Yeah, Vedius, Excoundrel I felt challenged, but they were always going to be the second duo in the UK to Excoundrel Live first duo in the UK. Munch, I first heard of him through the NUEL, where he used to do some stuff with Excoundrel. Once again, a really good caster. Like, he started off quite... I think the problem is I've got hindsight for all of the other casters, but not hindsight for myself, and I feel that's quite... I want to make sure that no one feels that I'm insulting them when I say this, because I was shit when I started. I was absolute bollocks. Like, I was probably the worst caster you've ever heard, but it's quite difficult for me to say that because I can't... It's harder to watch your own progress than it is to see other people's progress, okay? So Munch, yeah, he wasn't great when he started. He was pretty poor. He wasn't very confident on camera. You could tell he was quite an awkward person when he was doing it, but he's come out of his shell a lot and is a lot better now. He's top play-by-play in the UK, in my opinion, at the moment. Excluding myself, of course, because I'm fucking great.
Of course.
But yeah, I think that like those three are the sort of ones I've known for a long time, along with the Sigler, so those four. I want to just bring attention to some of the newer casters, so people like Desertu, Doutsy, Trid, I think it's Sacred Crow or Scared Crow. There's a bunch of really good new casters coming up through the ranks. I was a bit sorry to see Synergy not do as much casting because he was really good when he tried. Brixton was really good on the analyst desk when we had him on for ESL Premiership last split. There's some really good talent coming out of the UK, and with the NUEL invitation, the NUEL Game University tournament, I can't remember exactly what they're calling it now, with the ESL Premiership, there's a lot of really good talent that's being cultivated in the UK. And with LCS expanding to go over 2 streams in both NA and EU, with OPL getting bigger, with LPL getting bigger, there's a lot of opportunities for some good casters to come through.
Okay. So, would you say there is a favorite game that you've ever casted? Like, or maybe a favorite team that you really enjoyed casting, and would you want to cast them again?
My favorite casts were... I really enjoyed casting the Infused FM games that we had. They always felt like there was a big rivalry. Actually, especially when there was a bit of animosity between the teams as well, because it always felt quite on edge. It always felt quite tense. And it was the El Clasico of the UK scene. I think casting Choke as well was always really good fun at the I didn't actually cast them at the Four Nations. Four Nations promotions I did. So playoffs for the Four Nations, I thought Choke were really good fun to cast. My favourite team has to be, I can't even remember the name of them. I just remember one player, and his name was, she told me she was, oh no, she said, I thought you were level 18, or she told me she was level 18. Yes, she told me she was level 18, and I kept saying she told me she was level 16. And people kept wondering why I said it and accusing me of being a paedophile in chat, basically, because it's 2 years younger. But I had to, in the middle of a cast, I stopped the cast to explain that in the UK, 16 is the age of consent. So I wasn't wrong. And it was one of my defining moments as a caster. It was amazing.
Amazing stuff. You recently did a match write-up on the ESL UK Premiership blog,
I did.
well, just the website. Sure. Is this something you're interested in doing? How did that actually come about?
So I've always been quite into creative writing, and sort of you have to be quite creative to make the UK scene interesting. I've always been into creative writing and sort of the more prosy type style. So it was something that Munch had approached. I think he put it on Twitter or approached me about, saying, "Oh, do you want to do some write-ups for the ESL UK Premiership?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I will. I'll do it for fun." I think it was after I did a night before Christmas poem about the ESL UK Premiership finals last split, and he really enjoyed that, so he approached me, and it's good fun. I don't think I could ever be a professional journalist. I think it would be something I'd do as sort of a side hobby, and I'm never going to get into the deep statistics about it or the hardcore data, but I really enjoy trying to create a narrative through words and trying to just talk about how the teams have been playing against each other. I think overall, I thought for my first article it was all right. I think there's a lot I could work on. I'm going to be writing another one later on in the split, but it was good fun.
Okay. Well, one final thing before we move on to talk about the matches that came up last week and tomorrow's matches for the ESL Premiership. You recently played the role of host for the Season 2 finals. How did that come about, and how was the experience of playing the host on the analyst desk?
Basically, it came about because Munch wanted to cast, which I can't blame him for, and still wanted me involved because I've got the UK scene pedigree. So I hosted, it was really good fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. I feel that there was a little bit of awkwardness from my side because I'm not that used to leading a conversation in that sense. I tends to be a back and forth rather than letting the other two people talk about things. But yeah, really enjoyed talking to Matt, Impaler, and to Brixton as well. It was a great experience, and I'm looking forward to perhaps doing it again in the future. I think there's always going to be a difficulty for me now with Munch being hired by ESL for me to actually get play-by-play roles in any of the sort of casting. So I will happily step down and do more desk stuff, actually.
Do you think they'll because obviously they just did that for the finals? Do you think they'll start to incorporate that on a weekly basis in between the games?
I doubt it will be a weekly basis for now. I think if that's sort of high LCS sort of level, isn't it? It's when you get these big tournaments that have 20, 30,000 viewers. And if we get to that stage, which is always a possibility, then they'll do it, because it's monetary as well as it is logistical, because you have to get people down and you have to get this desk set up, you have to have more cameras, you have to have more production staff. I sincerely hope it will be there again this split. I'm pretty sure it will be for the finals. They've got their new studios in ESL UK now as well, so they've got a bit of extra setup for it. I doubt we'll see it for quarterfinals. I think it would probably be from semis onwards, like it was last split. But yeah, I think it's something we'd all love to see. We'd all love to be able to see that level of production, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay. Right then, let's talk about the Premiership matches. So, starting from last week, the first game that went on was, as I mentioned, or I thought last week, was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest game of the tournament, is Exertus versus Renegades. What were your thoughts about this match?
Well, it's a difficult one because Exertus have looked like a strong team with the introduction of their new rosters. You know, you've got Tundra in there now as well. Like they look like the super team of the UK. But Renegades have always been, and it's been actually something we've seen a lot from teams that Impaler's been on. They've been a team that have a great amount of promise, but never really seem to step up to the plate. You look at Coast really didn't have that much promise, but look at Super Hot Crew, and they had quite a lot of promise, and they never really got to the stage where they were pushing for it. I think Renegades should have got into Challenger and just never really showed up, and I feel part of that's the management behind the team as well. Renegades were the bookies' favourite to win this game, and they did end up winning, but Exertus showed us that they're probably going to end up second in this split, I think. They put a good fight up against Renegades, they were able to put some pressure down. I don't think Manalight are going to beat them, although Manalight have looked pretty strong in promotions. I don't think Choke are going to beat them. I really doubt M&M are going to get there. TCA are sort of a bit of a wild card, and I have to say that because it's their show.
So much for being honest.
No, with the loss of PJ Cesar, I think he's pretty sure he's been removed out of the jungle for Diabolo. You've got the Diabolo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that. Diabolo, however. You've got a bit of synergy lacking there. Jungle synergy with the rest of the lanes is really important in this meta because of the high priority of ganks in the early game, especially in bot lane. I think there's a bit of uncertainty around TCA and around Manalight at the moment. Manalight, we've only seen play one competitive game this split, not including promotionals. So I expect Renegades to be top, Exertus to be second, but below that, I'm not sure who are going to take third, fourth, and fifth. I think it's going to be close between Manalight, Choke, and TCA.
I think it was actually pretty impressive, the game in itself. I don't think Exodus actually made that many mistakes. It was more Renegades just making the right calls and moving around the map very well. So I think that's... And they obviously played around their comp because Renegades had quite an early mid-game comp. So I think that's what they mainly played around. So yeah. I wouldn't be worried if I was Exodus at all. I'm pretty sure they're going to be safe to finish second. It's probably the only team that I thought were going to beat Renegades, even though I did say last week that I thought Renegades would win. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Renegades fall off. I know I just said that they're going to win, but it really wouldn't surprise me if we get to say week 4, week 5, and they just start tailing off. It's a trend that happens with these sorts of teams where they're just way too strong for the other team. They lose the impetus to practice, and then they start losing games, especially in best of ones. It's the split-second decision-making just isn't quite on point, and the other teams are fighting for those spots, and so they're more likely to be practicing consistently. If I were to bet, I'd say Renegades are going to come top, but don't be surprised if they don't come top of the table.
Yeah, I think they will. I predicted that they'd lose at least one game.
Are you sure it's not going to be TCA come first?
Oh yeah, of course, TCA numero uno. Next game, moving on from there, then is FM versus M&M. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a bit of a shock.
You think?
I think the difficulty is having cast FM in what was its lineup. You know, the Scott, Tundra, Nutri, DX Alchemist, or whoever. No, it wasn't DX Alchemist. I've forgotten who their mid laner was. Whoever their mid laner was. I cast the same FM lineup.
Zivis was the most recent.
Zivis, yeah. I cast a very similar FM lineup for a good 2 years, and they were top team. You know, them and Infused fighting it out time after time. Choke came in sort of nearer the end of my casting regime, and M&M were always sort of these back burner team. You know, one of those top 8, not top 4 teams. The sort of elements to the G2 of FM eSports. But they played well. They played a strong game. Their macro play was pretty good for the UK, and they're mechanically pretty sound players. They did a good job to beat FM. I don't see them beating any of the other top 4 teams. So Renegades, Choke, Exertus, or TCA. I don't see them winning against those guys, but they did a good job to beat FM.
I think they have potential to beat Choke, to be honest.
Do you, though?
Yeah.
Have you seen Shades, Tom? Can anyone stand up to that?
Well, that's true. I don't know if anyone could. I imagine he'll sub in just for that game, just to guarantee the victory. So I think for this game, like Half Past Thor and Kevin Batik, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Played really, really well, and basically Kevin managed to enable Half Past Thor on that Karthus with his like early gank. Or early ganks, he stayed around mid quite a lot, made Half Past Thor feel safe, even though he plays quite far back anyway, so he was always going to be quite safe. And the quadra kill that he got somewhere in the mid game basically ended it. I don't think FM did anything in that game. They basically just let themselves lose because they didn't try and win before Karthus became too much of a threat for them to do anything.
Yeah. I think I'm in a friendship group with Half Past Thor, so we used to play a lot together, and he's always had a very passive mid lane play style. It's something that I think is both his strength and his weakness. That like the casters a couple of weeks ago talked about the fact he's amazing at farming, which he is. Ziggs, Zillion, Karthus, great, excellent. You can farm, good job. But there's a lot of mid lane initiation that's needed these days. See people playing the AD carries mid lane, which is a lot more about consistent damage throughout a fight. Harpastor is a very safe mid laner, and it's the reason he gets away with playing things like Dark Seal Ziggs into a Medjai's, or playing Xerath with Dark Seal as his starting item. But I worry for him when he plays up against the strong mid laners. You know, the people who can actually put pressure on you. They're the Haytongs playing as Corki or with Thunderlords or something mid. Like, is it Haytong or Haytung?
Haytung, I think, yeah.
Haytung. The Haytungs, like Corki, Thunderlords mid. You're not going to be able to farm against that. You're not going to be able to play safe because he'll just Valkyrie in and destroy you. He's a good mid laner. He's a strong high elo player, but he doesn't have the champion pool to play in what is essentially a burst mage, a little bit of assassin meta.
All we need him to do is basically pick up Anivia, and we can call him the UK Froggen.
Yeah, if he picks up Anivia, actually he's probably fine because that's a safer wave clear as well. Ziggs doesn't quite have the wave clear you like. Karthus, and you need to land too many individual Qs to wave clear properly, or he needs to be in range for Defile. Xerath is Xerath. He's just a bit too immobile to be played in the mid lane with the jungle ganks and the lack of vision that you can get. You need 2 pink wards, you only really get 1. So he needs. If he picked up a Nivea, I'd be happy. I'd be happy bunny.
Well, if he's watching, he knows what he needs to play for next week. Yeah. Right.
Do it for me.
Infused versus TCA is the 3rd game, the best game of the night, of course. Any thoughts on this matchup?
Well, I think Infused are going to come last this split.
I also think so. Do you think
it makes me so sad? They were a really strong, good team. I mean, TCA played well, but they didn't really have to do a huge amount to beat Infused. No insult to TCA. Infused feel to me like the giants of the UK scene, except they were once good.
Yeah.
Who was good and then was awful in LCS? Fnatic. They're the Fnatic of the UK.
Do you think that Infused might go from being undefeated from last season to not getting a single win this season? Do you think it could go that wrong?
I really want them. I like the team. I like the management. I've had some bad run-ins with Infused management before, but we made up. We shook hands and made up. I just feel there's no one on that team where I say, yeah, they're going to carry. Leandrid almost did. On Fiora, he almost had a good time, but SK, that's the team that was great and then was over. Leandrid had a good enough performance on Fiora, but he was making bad decisions at the end of the game. Like, he was diving into 5 men by himself, and yes, you got the Zillion ult to follow you up, but Chrono Shift is only going to shift you so far back. You can't shift far enough. And TCA played a good game, but it never felt like Infused were going to win it.
Yeah, I don't think we, apart from the very end of the game, where we made some silly mistakes, we got a little bit greedy.
Yeah,
I think
you
we
did.
played fairly well. Fearless and Diabola, however you say his name, I don't even know how to say it. He played well. They both played pretty well as well, I think. So I mean, you malfight, all you do is press R and you get a decent victory there. I mean, he got quite a few 4-man knockups though, so that was good.
Yeah.
And last game of the night, it's probably my favourite actually of the night, was Choke versus Manalight. Yeah, I really enjoyed this game.
Why did you really enjoy this game?
Well, again, Choke's top laner, who before this tournament, I had no idea who he is. He impressed me again. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know if it's like
you don't know who Ginge is.
Is it? Yeah, Ginge. Is it that how you say his name?
Oh,
yeah, no, I don't know. Did not know. I do now.
How can you not, mate? That doesn't look like anything else. It's Ginge. This is why you're not a caster.
I know that's true. I am definitely never going to be a caster. So yeah, I think it was quite a close game for a lot of the game. But Larson just was getting further and further ahead in CS. I think at one point before the game blew up, he was like 80 CS above his counterpart. And then Choke took a really bad, and forgive the pun here, a choke point. And basically, Larson just he got a triple kill, and I think the game was over from that point onwards. But Choke were looking pretty good up until that point.
Apparently, it's Nick.
Nick.
But I'm going to keep calling him Ginge.
Well, that's what everyone else was saying. And I was like...
Jokerism is calling him Nick in chat. And, I mean, I don't know how much Jokerism really knows, though. So... Anyway, yeah, I think the thing with Manalight is we've only got one game to actually analyse from them. They've only had... Obviously, they won against Infused because of that mid lane issue. They've got one of the highest kill... I had the stat. I had it somewhere.
What, Thunder
They've got one of the highest KDAs. There we are. 4.9. So they're third highest in the league. Behind Choke and Exertus. Exertus and then Choke, actually. But I'm just not sure... Just not sure about them yet. I feel that there's a bit more for them to prove. I liked the way that they played as a team. I feel they were pretty impressive all round. As you say, Larson on that Victor had a great game. As soon as Choke choked. I can't even think of a better pun. That's the only pun I have about Choke Gaming. That either, if they're winning, this is why Choke Gaming are so good, right? If they're winning, they're choking the life out of this game. If they're losing, they've choked this game. Done. All the puns are done.
I think that's
Need
pretty
nothing
much
else.
it, isn't it?
You're done. It's great. And if they're winning and you're enjoying it, or if they're winning and on the player cams they're enjoying it, also erotic asphyxiation.
All good in the hood.
Yeah, anyway, I think Manalight is still a bit early to judge them. I think they're a good team. I think they're strong. I feel that Choke didn't quite play it as well as they could have done. They have a good backroom staff with Shades Tom, so hopefully they can dodge the lasers with the Shades and manage to win out the next week. Who are they playing next week? They're playing up against M&M. So should we do predictions for next week?
We will do. Let me just.
Oh, we're not doing it yet. We're not doing it. Have you got more to talk to me about?
Calm down. Yeah. Last thing before we go on talking about next week games, who would you give MVP of the week to?
As a team or as a player?
As a player.
I think Larson. I think Larson really put Manalight on his back.
Yep, definitely.
He was. I think was he the only one to end with a positive KDA on his team, or like he was the only one to end like properly positive on his team?
I'm not sure he even died. I'm not sure if he even died that game.
Somewhere. He was 11-0-0.
Yeah, he pretty much carried 1v9 that game. If they would have had anyone else, then I think the game would have probably gone over the Choke. And I think that's kind of the thing that teams need to be looking for, is to try and shut down Larson, because he's by far, and please forgive me, the biggest carry on that team and probably the only like major factor for that team.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry for just like doing a weird face on stream. Leicester have equalised. It's 1-1.
Oh,
So
good stuff.
That's it's the important stuff. Anyway, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's still early doors. It's still early in the season. We're still only 2 weeks in. Tomorrow, obviously, is 3 weeks. I'll be casting that, by the way. But I think, the middle of the season is really where things get decided. We'll get to week 6, and we'll have a definitive top 4, perhaps with the 4th and 5th place being fought out. Maybe, actually, I think probably from 3rd down will be being fought over. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see how things go. And there's still roster swaps happening. There's still teams who have been really motivated for 2 weeks, no longer being motivated. So it happens all the time, and you just have to accept it as a manager. The UK scene is very fluctuant and very frustrating to be involved in, because if we were in Europe or if we were in the States, things are a lot more... People take being in part of this sort of competition a lot more seriously than they seem to over here. So,
okay. Let's move on to next week's games then. So we start with the first match of the night. I say next week, it's tomorrow. Infused versus Renegades. This is obviously going to be a mountain and a half.
Win.
Yes.
Yeah. Renegades got a lot of work to do.
No chance.
A lot of work to do have the Banditos. They can't steal away a win from Infused. That Fuse has been lit by Team Infused. Something. I'm trying to think of puns. Can we give me some good puns in chat for tomorrow? That'd be great. Yeah, Bandito's going to take this one. It's cakewalk for them. If Infused even get more than 5 kills, I'd be amazed. If the game isn't over by 30 minutes, I'd be amazed. Unless Renegades play a wacky comp or an outrageous late game comp. They don't need to. They're mechanically better, they're strategically better, and they're going to win that game.
I think that's the issue really with Infused and why it looks so bad for them is they've played, well, they had to forfeit the first week.
Yeah, against Manalight.
Which would have been a Manalight, which I don't think they would have. I don't know. It depends how they would have played, because I'm not, apart from Larson, he's the only one who's impressed me on Manalight so far. I know it was one game, but that was it. And now they have to play Renegades, which obviously is another hard game for them. So it really isn't looking good for them. It's a potential that they will actually be 0-3. And from this stage, it might be quite hard to get back because of the format. And we've only having 4 games. It'll only be 4 more games left, won't it? So, yeah. Unless like Renegades disband before the game starts tomorrow, I'm fairly sure Renegades have it in the bag.
Unless Alicus plays for them again.
Yeah.
In which case.
And then, maybe. Second game of the night is FM versus Manalight.
I think Manalight take this. Like, FM they're not showing the masterclass that they used to be. They're not the powerhouse of the UK scene they used to be. I think Manalight have a good enough lineup to win it out if Larson plays a good game. If they play a bit better in the early games strategically, they have a good chance. FM will be hurting after losing to M&M. I think they'll want to come back with a vengeance, but I just don't quite think they have it in them to win that.
I think unless FM fix their issues, I don't know if it's like a shot calling issue. I don't know who the shot caller is for FM, but unless they fix their issues of the fact that it just didn't seem, they were playing so passively and they were not being proactive at all. Unless they fix that, I don't think they're going to stand a chance against Manalight, especially if you look, no flame to Sean, but if you look at the mid lane matchup, again, like Larson versus Sean, I really think like Larson is just going to go crazy because unlike Half Past Thor, who plays passive, Larson is not someone who will do that, and he will not let you just farm up and he'll just kill you probably over and over again, especially if he has the jungler come and help him, as we've seen from last week. Third game of the night is Exertus versus TCA. So, I mean, difficult decision for me. I always want to be biased and say that TCA will win every single game, but I can't do that, of course. So I'm not sure. It's a very uphill battle for us. I don't know how much I can say, but we're using subs again this week. So that's the main reason. If we had our full roster, I think it would be a very, very close game. Even though I am being biased in that regard, I think Exertus would definitely still take it. But given how the situation is right now, I think I'll obviously have to just give it to Exertus.
Yeah, I think knowing that you're using subs really changes the dynamic, because if you weren't using subs, I'd give you a chance. I think there's a possibility you'd win it. Exertus are still working out a few of the kinks of having this new roster, but with you having to use subs just because of a few issues, I have to give it to Exertus. I think they've got a little bit more strength, they've got a little bit more experience than you guys, and just perhaps a little bit more skill on the day. So Exertus is probably going to take it. I think they're blue side as well, so that gives them first pick, which is quite... There's a debate at the moment whether first pick or blue side or red side is better. Some people say red side because there's so many OPs, you can get 2 of them. Some people say blue side because you can ban out all the rest and get 1. But yeah, so I'll give Exertus the game tomorrow. I think it's going to be tight. I think TCA will put up a challenge, but Exertus to take it for me.
Yeah. And the last game, which you briefly mentioned before that you so excitedly wanted to talk about, is Choke versus M&M. So what would you like to say about that?
Did I say I really wanted to talk about
Well,
that?
you started going on and then I had to stop you because we wanted to talk about
Oh,
the MVP.
yes. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I think Choke they've got a few names that are well known in the UK scene. So they've got Wiz, they've got Jokerism, they've got Dandy Chap. Dandy Chap actually I'm really liking because he's playing a few more not Fiddlesticks junglers, and when he does that, that impresses me because I knew him for a long time as Fiddle only. M&M coming off their win against FM, like I feel that I don't like underestimating teams. I really don't like doing it because it's the difficulty with predictions when I can only go from what I've seen and can only go from what I judge from the games I see. I feel FM were not playing at their full force last week. I don't think that M&M had as much as a challenge as they might have done. I think they did well to win it, but I don't think they showed us anything spectacular for the win. There wasn't a bit of play where I went, oh yeah, that's won them the game there because of how great it was. I think Choke are going to take it. I think they've got a bit more experience. I think they've got a bit more strategic depth. But M&M have that upset power. And if they win this week, it will stop. It won't be an upset power anymore. It'll just be them playing to the stage they're at. We haven't seen enough of them to really judge where they're going to be. But I expect them to be 6th at the end of this, or 7th at the end of the season.
I think this is a little bit more close for me, just because of how M&M played last week. Mm-hmm. Choke still played very, very well, obviously, as I said. But I think possibly if M&M can throw out some crazy off-meta picks again and maybe surprise Choke, I think that might give them the edge. And I don't want to just say, oh, it's 50-50 and like pussy out, basically. So I'm going to say that maybe 55% goes to M&M just because Choke struggle in the early game, or at least they seemed to in the first week. They managed to solve that a little bit in the second game or second week. So if M&M are able to just pick a scaling comp again, then they might actually get the win just from that. Like if they pick Carthus again and just wait 25-30 minutes and just go crazy and get another quadra kill, then that could just see the game ending there and then.
That it could. I think that the difficulty is always trying to predict moments like that because it's, and I believe this to be your next talking point, so I'm going to try and segue us into it nicely. It's a bit like the NUEL Semi-finals. We saw University of Birmingham, TCA, Storm playing up against Aston Aunties. That's so fucking difficult to say. How on earth can you say that? And there were a couple of moments where it just ended up being, I believe Blue Bear got a quadra kill in the second game. MSR got a penta kill in the third game, and it's so difficult to predict a game when someone just ends up going off. It happens. So you hit a purple streak, you play really well, but in if you just look at the teams as objectively as possible, I think Choke have it. I think Choke have it.
Okay. So you nicely tied us in there. So
Try
the
to.
next
Try
thing
to.
we're talking about is the NUEL Semi-finals that happened. I think they happened on Monday. Potentially.
Sunday, I
Was it
believe.
Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah.
I half remember watching it. So the first matchup was Cambridge Memers in classic English style versus Grey Warwick, and Cambridge won 2-0 in this matchup. Is there anything you can tell us about this?
I think like Cambridge Memers have a squad that their names that have been around for a long time. You've got like Masneric, Carney Flexen. You've got some strong long-term players. I used to play for the UEA Bunnies university team. We played up against them once and got absolutely destroyed. So they've got some strong players. I think it was a bit of a surprise because see, this is me with the R's. Grey Warwick have always been one of the top tier NUEL teams. They've been really, really strong, and honestly, I haven't followed it as closely as I could have done. It would be better to talk to someone like Trid or Desertu if you want sort of in-game analysis and in-game breakdowns of why things happened the way they did. But people underestimated Cambridge, in my opinion. I think everyone was thinking Grey Warwick would take it 2-0. Everyone was thinking that they'd be the ones that won out eventually and got through to the finals. It ended up being the 2-0 for Cambridge Memers, and they just outplayed Warwick really across the park. There weren't that many throws. It wasn't really that Grey Warwick gave them the game. It's just the Memers played better than they usually would.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. Like, it did seem to be an upset. And again, without bias, I think both the games this weekend were an upset.
Yeah,
because Aston Aunties versus
Exactly.
UOB TCA Storm, that ended up being a 2-1 as well. And I think that was a little bit of a surprise. It's unfortunate, really, that UOB basically let the same comp that beat them in the first game come through for the third game, and they fell prey to the exact same mistakes that they made in the first game, and that's basically what tied the game over for them to lose it. The Nidalee just went and created so much pressure in the early game, whereas the Gragas, I think it was, for UOB, just didn't really do much at all.
I feel there's a big problem with the sort of second tier of UK teams, the tier beneath the ESL Premiership, where they don't take the time out to analyse how they play and analyse what the enemy team might do. And I remember doing it myself when I played competitively, definitely in inverted commas, for a very short period of time. And our prep for the other team would be to look over their carry.ggs and be like, oh, well, they play this, we'll play this and it'll be fine. And a lot of it will come out from the way that you go through picks and bans, be like, oh, we've got these 3 comps, we can work with this one. There's a depth of analysis lacking there. And I feel that University of Birmingham TCA Storm fell prey to that, because if you look at Jet, like he's never played Nidalee before, but it really suits his style. It really suits the way that he likes to play and the way that Aston Aunties like to play as well. And MSI in the second game played Graves along with the Gragas coming out from Jet, and you didn't see that same pressure in the early game. I mean, even then, Jet was still, I think, 3-10 halfway through that second game, and it took a bit of a throw for TCA Storm to get back into it. So Aston Aunties were the underdogs, but give MSR Callista, give Jet Nidalee or an aggressive early jungler who you can gank on, and you're really going to fall behind quickly. And as you said, there's just that lack of understanding what beat you and why it beat you. It's the lack of analysis.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm slightly disappointed because I would have liked to see them in Leicester, and I think that's
definitely
on the 12th of this month, so just 11 days away. So obviously, if you're interested in seeing the finals, which will obviously be between Cambridge Memers and Aston Aunties, go have a look and go to Leicester.
I hear you can get some Nando's with the lads beforehand.
You probably could. Maybe
I'll
go
Trid
and have
will
some
get the event
Nando's.
right. So are you going to be there? Are you going to be there?
I will try be, yes. I would have 100%
I'm going to try and be
been,
there. I don't
but
think I can, but I will try.
yeah, I mean, it's about a 2-hour journey for me, so it's not too bad. Then another tournament that is coming up, which is actually tomorrow, is the King of the North Finals, which is hosted in Manchester, which again, this involves UOB TCA Storm, and it's against University of Exeter. So it's going to be quite interesting, I think. I'm going to be there, so if anyone sees me around, say hello. And I think UOB should take the game. It starts at 7 o'clock because they have a bunch of other tournaments and a bunch of other things that are going on there as well. So I think there's a couple of 1v1 tournaments that are going on.
Yeah.
So do have a go at that as well. It should be quite interesting. Do you have any thoughts on the actual matchup itself?
I think TCA will take it. Like University of Exeter, I've only seen them play once or twice. I feel that they play pretty well as a team. They're not as consistent as you'd like them to be, but for what is a casual competitive level, they're pretty good. But from what I saw from University of Birmingham, assuming they can get a bit more analysis in their play, they should be able to take those games. I do just want to give a shout out to King of the North tournament. It's a great tournament. It's been running for a couple of years now, I believe, and I really recommend going to it. It's not going to be LCS level. It's not going to be the level that you'd see at IEM or ESL, but the fun of it is being able to have that camaraderie with other people and just being able to enjoy yourself, have a few drinks, have a laugh, watch some League of Legends, have the casters make fun of the players a little bit or make fun of the audience a little bit, you know? It's all about having a bit of a jolly laugh, as I would say, amongst you all. It's like, this is what I really like about what's happening in the UK scene at the moment. I'm going to go off on one last tangent before we finish. We have a society and an attitude towards League of Legends now that wasn't here a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, it was very competitive. It was very, we play the tournament, we go home type thing. And now it's a lot more, we'll go, have a Nando's the night before, go out to a bar, all of us will chat, we'll have a bit of fun. Casters will join up, have a bit of fun. It's all about creating a community, and League is so much more about the community than it is about the competitive play. You look at how, like, 0.0001% of players are competitive. The other 99.999% of players are us. We're the guys who like to have fun. We're the guys who like to go and dress up in, well, I don't dress up in stupid costumes, but some people do dress up in stupid costumes, and that's what you like to do. Like, go, have fun with mates, watch some LCS, have a laugh, have a drink, eat some Nando's, be a bit cheeky, be fucking grand, boys. Fucking grand.
I like the community aspect of it. That's I think the main thing there is interesting, and I think that's the main thing that kind of goes on with the King of the North tournament. It's basically you have a bunch of people that come together to have a bit of fun, but also you can watch some games going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So
it's the same with Epic LAN. If Epic LAN still did League of Legends, that would be the one LAN I recommend to everyone in the world. Like, everyone in the UK. It's so much fun. They brought me Jaeger on the caster desk. Like, they were like, oh, what do you want to drink? It's 12 o'clock. I'm like, I'll have an orange juice. They're like, no, Jaeger bomb. What the fuck? It's amazing.
I think that's what's actually put me off. I was planning to go, but now that they don't do League, I've decided I'm probably not going to go there because I probably can't really afford the time off work that many times off a year.
No League,
yeah, exactly. So
that is one of the big problems with that's the main problem that hinders the UK LoL scene is that teams disband and reband so readily.
Yeah.
There's no consistency about it. ESL Premiership's doing a great job of creating some consistency, but that's the reason Epic LAN stepped out, because they'd get 5 teams registered the day before. It's the reason Insomnio don't have a big League of Legends scene anymore, because you get 10 teams registered. CSGO, you get 50 teams. Like, if you want to be part of the UK League of Legends scene competitively, just join. Like, if at the worst, right, you go to Insomnia, you go to Epic LAN, you play one game competitively, so what, you lose it, you spend the rest of the time fucking drinking. What's the issue? There's no issue with that. Like, just go. Just do it.
I think the best thing is that you can actually play some really good teams as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the, my highlights of when I've not played the last one, but every other one that I've been to, which I think is like 5 or 6, I always played like at least one game against a really good team, and it's just so fun to play against them. Even if you get stomped, or as the later ones came about, they were a little bit more closer. Like, it's just so much fun to get in that environment. So there's one thing that I want to discuss, as I had an idea when we were talking about both LCS teams and the UK teams, and we basically compared, I think it was, Infused to Fnatic, but then we changed our mind to SK. Let's compare each team that's in the ESL Premiership right now to any team in the world, if you could. So we'll start off.
Are we talking play style or just general memes?
General memes and play style. Go for it. Just think of a comparison. So we'll go from basically top of the board, but not necessarily in any order of what we think that they might finish. So let's just go with Renegades first.
Okay, so Renegades are the easiest. Okay, I'm going to try and keep it NA and EU LCS based because I feel like some of the viewership won't have LPL, or I'll do big LCK teams. I'd say Renegades are probably Immortals because at the moment, they look pretty unbeatable, but I would not be surprised if they start losing a few games near the end of the split.
Yeah, okay. Then we'll go on to Exertus.
Exertus are, they're probably Vitality, because they're going to be a strong team. They haven't quite got the synergy there yet, which Vitality didn't at the start of the split, and they've got a few well-known names in the midst of them, so like Tundra could be Kasing, not at the same level, but I think that they've got a little bit of work to do, but they'll do the work and they'll finish up strong.
And then FM?
FM eSports are Elements, because they've got all the roster that they need to be a good team, but they're just not that good. Elements last split. We'll give them Elements last split because then they had a great roster and they're just not that good. I no insult meant to FM at all. Like, I'm sure if you put the work in and the effort in, you've got mechanically sound players. You've got Sir Scott, you've got Only Angel who 1v1'd Alphari, you've got Sean17 who's a good mid laner. Like, if you put the work in, if anyone from FM's listening, which you're probably not, you can finish well. But at the moment, you're Elements.
And then M&M.
M&M. Unicorns of Love. I feel like M&M are just like this sort of banterlicious team. You know, they took 5 tickets to the Banter Bush and just like, we'll see where we end up. And they're starting to beat teams, and I'm pleased for them. We'll see.
That's a good comparison.
Keep your eyes on M&M.
Infused?
Giants. No, they're worse than Giants. Who's worse than Giants?
Oh man.
Who's last in the NALCS at the moment? Someone's shit, probably. I don't even know who's last in the NALCS.
Isn't it Renegades? Isn't that?
Yeah, they're Renegades. Like, they are Renegades, because Giants have taken a couple of games. Renegades are just shitters. They've taken a couple of games as well.
I don't think there's any...
Infused to Dignitas, okay? Infused to Dignitas, because they were once a mighty stalwart of the thing. Trid keeps saying Samsung White, and it is roster swaps that screwed them over, but not enough people know who Samsung White are. Okay, I'm going to say they're Dignitas. Because, like, they just... Whenever they have a lead, they throw it, and whenever they don't have a lead, it's because they've been fucked by the other team.
TCA?
TSM. They've got the best media profile, but perhaps not the best team yet.
And obviously, just individually amazing players that just don't seem to mesh so well.
They've got a good lineup, and the only thing that leads me away from not saying TCM is that they're not well-known players in the scene. But I think they've got a really good lineup. We'll just have to wait to see if they live up to the hype, because it's all about synergy. It's I've talked a few times about not in this podcast and different things, about TSM having too many shot callers, and that's always a problem for teams when you've got too many big names, too many big voices. I don't think TCA has that. I think they've got... I don't know who the shot caller is. You're a lot better placed to talk about that than I am, but they feel like they've got a bit of synergy, just not quite 100%. Yeah.
I mean, obviously their analyst is probably just as good as George, I reckon. You know. no bias in that regard. And yeah, Luna definitely is Reggie, so it's all good.
She looks like him as well.
Luna can be quite hands-on actually, so he probably is a little bit like Reggie in that regard. The last two, Choke.
Choke are. I need a one-trick jungler really. Choke are G2 because mechanically all their players are pretty good. Like Joker's pretty good mechanically. Nick pretty good mechanically. Energy played pretty well. He played oh, what did he play last week? I can't remember what he played, but yeah, they've got mechanically pretty good players. And their synergy's there. It's just whether or not they will die down a little bit as we get later into the split.
Yeah, he played Lux like last week, I think.
Lux, yeah,
because he just survived thanks to the double shield.
Yeah. And Dandy reminds me of Trick, so
that's a pretty good compliment, to be honest. And then the last one is Manalight.
Manalight. The issue with Manalight is that we've only seen one real game from them, and it was against Choke. It was against Choke. We'll give them. I think they most remind me of H2K, actually. I've done quite a European theme. If we were going to go for an NA theme, who from NA would they remind me of? CLG. CLG, because I feel like I'm going to underestimate them a lot. And I feel like they're probably going to live up to my underestimations eventually. But at the moment, they're doing well. So.
I was going to say there might be like NRG, because I think a lot of people were hyping them up and going, oh, this team's going to be really good. And yes, they will be really good, but I have a feeling that they might just lose a couple of games where they really shouldn't.
Yeah, but NRG are now 7-7, so whatever I think they're 7-7. They're in a pretty awful position. I don't anticipate. Really well. Yeah. I don't anticipate Manalight going 3-4 or 4-3. Oh, maybe they will actually.
I wouldn't be surprised if they. I mean, they. Yeah. Let's say they lose to Renegades. Let's say they lose to TCA, and then all we really need is one other game.
Exertus,
I mean, Exertus or Choke. It's quite
they
possible.
beat Choke, didn't they?
Oh, sorry, yeah. But Exertus or even FM or M&M could take a game off them, I think.
What about Infused? Don't leave Infused
sorry,
out.
I do apologise. Even Infused could possibly take a game off them.
No, they couldn't. Stop being
Poor Infused. Right. I don't know if you've heard, but there are rumours of Alphari and Impaler possibly going to HUMA. I think that's how you say the team name.
They'd be stupid to do that.
I think I'd agree, especially in the recent light of all the drama that's going on with them and the lineup that Renegades has anyway.
Yeah. Impaler has been burnt too many times by joining a team that's not in the right position to let him do what he needs to do. Alphari's too good a top laner to get screwed over like that. I think that I'd prefer to see them stick with Renegades this split and get picked up in the off-season by one of the Challenger teams, or obviously if Renegades win, they have the chance of getting into the Challenger qualifiers anyway through the ESL UK. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get into Challenger, if those two leave Renegades and join another squad. They're probably the best two players in the league at the moment. Impaler more for his experience than anything else. I feel there are other junglers that could perhaps put up a challenge to him, but they're not quite at the same level experience-wise. We'll see. But I wouldn't expect Alphari and Impaler to stay at Renegades if they don't get challenged at this split.
Let's hypothetically say if they both left in, like, let's say next week or like even now, and they have obviously get replacements. I mean, they have Zazas top as a replacement anyway. It's not like he's much of a downgrade at all. Do you think that they could still be as dominant?
It depends on who you get in as your jungler.
ContactZero, I think. Probably.
Yeah, well, ContactZero is a bit of a shitter, really, isn't he? So
I don't know. I think he's pretty
How many un-English places do they have? So if they got Zazas in, they'd have to get an English jungler in.
They would, yeah.
That's the problem. If they could get a European jungler in, I think they wouldn't have any problem maintaining their position. But the English jungle pool at the moment isn't the biggest, and I can't really think of anyone who's not on one of the top 8 teams who's free that would be able to fulfill that role successfully for them.
I think potentially, I know Nutri is trying to get back into the game.
I know he is, and he was a good jungler in his time, but he's not there at the moment. He's high diamond, low masters level, and to get into that team and to be able to challenge, you need to be masters challenger.
Okay, I think that's
in my opinion. I like Nutri's a great guy. I love him. Really cool guy. Really nice guy to talk to. Really good League of Legends player in his time, but he wouldn't be able to give them what they need.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So, excuse me. Last thing then. Do you have any shout-outs that you'd like to do before we end the show?
Shout out to myself. I'm awesome. Follow me. I'm the best. Shout out to TCA for doing this. It's really kind of you guys to have me on. I hope I contributed a little bit. I feel it was more just me ranting about stuff than anything else. I do another podcast every week called the Scuttlecast, which is a name not of my own invention, but I'm pretty proud of it, in all honesty. You can follow us at the Scuttlecast so it's the space Scuttlecast on YouTube, or I always tweet out the VODs. We just do analysis of the professional scene and the meta and stuff. It's, that's about it. I don't really... Oh, follow ESL UK, because I'm going to be doing a cast there tomorrow, and I will see you all at LAN. I'll be at iSeries if anyone's there. Come grab me. I'm always happy to chat, to have a drink, do whatever. Thank you very much for having me on, ContactZero. It's been great fun.
Yeah, it's been great to have you.
I hope I haven't just ranted.
No,
I feel like I have a little bit, but...
It's been really good. So, yeah. Obviously, do tune into his cast. Not his cast. Well, tune into his cast as well, but...
Please tune in.
Tune into his podcast as well, because it is quite interesting. Him and 2 other people who I can't remember the name of now, so you might...
Superphase and Zata.
Yeah, both of them, all 3 of them go through all the regions. Not every single time though, is that right? It's just some of the times...
We tend to do sort of a brief overview of all the regions and then focus on something specific that week. So we started off by doing like VOD reviews, but it didn't really work out. Now we're doing sort of more general feelings about the week. So we did the NALCS, we did IEM, we'll do meta changes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description anyway to the either playlist if you have one, or the first episode, so that you can go and check that out. And also, give us feedback for both our shows, because we are always trying to improve them, and we want to know what kind of things that you want to talk about. We were going to talk about patch notes potentially, if we had the time, but are you interested in those kind of things? Is it just the ESL bit? Are you interested in the insight part? Just let us know, and we'll obviously try and improve in as much as possible. Obviously, thanks to Sona for coming on the show today, and thank you all for tuning in. And next week we'll be having Calvin from M&M, and he'll be talking to us about the management side, and obviously how to become an owner in the organization, or in a organization, so that if anyone's interested in setting up maybe a business or a team and wants to know how they can do that, well, tune in next week and we'll talk about that. Again, we'll be talking about the ESL Premiership, where we're probably both going to be biased towards TCA and M&M in that regard. But apart from that, thank you all for tuning in, and good night.